your head, eh?
Yeah.
I'm pitching in $10 for each.
Really?
I'm gonna get a head shake.
$1,000. And what is Laura doing?
Pie in the face. That's the laugh easy.
We're to send money with the kids for Terry Fox.
Oh.
And if they make over $1,000, Scott's shaving his head and Laura's getting pie in the face.
It's good motivator.
You know what?
Nothing like some good incentive.
Yeah.
That's incredible.
The problem is I need a haircut right now.
Saving it all.
Well, it will only be next week,
I know.
right?
Oh, so there's still time for us to buy tickets too?
Yeah.
You just have to donate.
So it is, looks like it's a minute or two, pretty close to 7, and we do have a quorum. I'd like to start, but I know James is on his way, and Rob, I presume, will be here. And Sir Melanie as well. So.
Busy time
It's a busy
for us
time.
campaigners.
I know.
Yes.
I know. But I know, just for your information, we have 4 members of this committee who are running in the next election, but we have to keep this committee meeting an election free zone.
I know, we just haven't started yet, so I thought I would flag with everybody.
So I do want to wait for the others because, I really want to,
I'll go look in the parking lot, that
Yeah.
works well.
It usually works. If you just go to the door and look.
yeah.
I went to the second floor for the first time. There's a lot of space up there.
Yeah.
That's great.
Oh, do I smell?
You know the history of the house?
Yeah. I'm not sure. I'm trying to remember what it was a school. Was it Iowa Pacific School? Hey, James. Hey, Rob. Okay, so let's call the meeting to order. We still have one person missing, but yeah. So we have a few items on the agenda that we have guests, so we'll let them go first on the agenda. But I want to move the agenda around because Susanna has some issues. She's on the phone, and we want to get to the BC Ferries issue right away. So I'll change the order of the agenda. So that means if you have a look at the agenda, we'll be moving item 8.2, which, well, it's not on your, it doesn't exist yet. I just wrote it up a few minutes ago. Passenger cut off this morning. The school kids that were cut off this morning. Hi, Melanie.
And if you
So
if you
let's-
want to speak, then the public comments is the part that you would speak in.
Oh, yeah.
I'll give you one of these.
So we're going to move back to
Make it 5.1?
5.1.
Okay. So 5.1 and 5.2?
Yeah.
I have things too.
Yeah. Okay, so, but just a sec, do we have public comments?
Yeah.
I guess public comments go after we adopt the minutes and approve the agenda, so let's do that first. So let's keep going on the agenda. Sue Ellen, you wanted something to add?
Yeah, if we don't have them, just a few quick updates.
Okay.
Subdivision and servicing bylaw,
I think they're on.
did we do that?
No, that's traffic and use of streets.
Okay, so this would be an info item, or do you want
Yeah,
to?
just an info or an update, whatever.
Okay,
maybe steps.
7.4.
Yeah, 7.4.
Evacuation route planning,
Oh, wow.
7.5.
bus shelter on Cardina,
Yeah,
7.6.
council recommendation yesterday about foot passenger ferry.
okay. Oh,
Maybe
yeah, that's
that
right.
should be-
That would
That was
be-
from our July 4th.
It was, so let's have that as
Let's put
that's 7.7.
Okay,
Or maybe,
and lot 3 layout. Lots.
do you want to put 7.7 up by 5?
These can be, I can be really quick.
Lots of new business tonight.
Well, it's more info, I just want to keep
Okay.
everybody informed, 'cause we're coming up to what might be a changeover.
No, it's separate. No, I mean, staff, so that's 7.7. What was your, I'm sorry, I got 7.7, do you have 7.8 as well?
Lot 3.
Lot 3?
3, proposed subdivision of community layout.
Oh, yeah.
Yeah, layout, something like that.
What was 7.7 again?
Passenger ferry resolution from
Oh.
council, let's say?
Yeah,
Or discussion?
Yeah.
council update, free passenger ferry. Okay, anything else? So, quite a few small items, one big one to start, and then probably a considerable discussion about what happened this morning, right after our delegation. Okay, so can I have a motion to approve the agenda? James, seconded. Ellen, those in favor?
Aye.
Opposed and carried, thank you very much. The minutes, any errors or omissions? Okay, seeing none, can I have a motion to approve? Seconded. All those in favor?
Aye.
Excellent. So let's get to our public comments. Do you have some comments?
I was just gonna go on about this morning's run.
Well-
Here we're going backwards again instead of staying
Yeah.
forward. And we thought we had it all more or less solved
Yeah.
from last spring.
Right.
And somebody said this morning, the crew member said that basically the last couple of weeks, I guess, wasn't showing over capacity. So somebody's made the call
Yeah,
to not bring on the crew. But realistically, we all have to come to agree that
I agree.
Bowen is, it doesn't matter if we're up or down. It's
Can I
got to
just
be
interrupt?
consistent.
Yeah.
For our
Go ahead.
guests, high school students were left behind as foot passengers this morning because the ferry was at capacity.
Yeah.
Yeah, well, it wasn't, the numbers were at capacity.
numbers were at
They didn't
capacity.
even have enough cars on that ferry, they cut the cars, and they cut the passengers. And I mean, there is an issue about who boards first in the process of the
Absolutely.
boarding, whether we're workers going to work, if we get priority over the students or not, which I think is a huge issue, number one. And if we're at the point of these kids are coming on,
Yeah.
school district, I think that's gonna have to cough up some money to get a water taxi, or at least somebody has to cough up a water taxi to take one load of group off.
Okay, so I'll tell you what, we will have this
So-
item as a first item on the
Yeah, so let's
agenda.
just-
So it's, but for the camera, could you just state your name, just so,
Oh,
yeah,
Trish DeCatz.
yeah, okay, and that was your email this morning, so thank you very
Yeah.
much. So if you could, if you have anything else to add, because we'll be then discussing it ourselves, but I think you've given us the basic information.
That's basically
Yeah.
really it, is that they're doing it, and if it becomes a regular issue now,
Yeah.
we need to deal
It's
with it.
just, we agree, we thought this was solved.
And also, Susanna on the phone has already been emailing with BC Ferries today, and she's got some info, so
Yeah,
that'll come.
we've got some info that we can share with you.
The other thing is.
We'll share the
nice
info
to
with
go
you
back
after, when we get to that point in
to
the agenda, but I
local
do
phone
have
number.
information.
Like, they've
Yeah.
taken away the 9217414 and shot it to Victoria.
Oh.
Nobody knows in Victoria what's going on and where she
No,
went.
of course not.
And it would be nice to have the local number back, so on situations like this,
Okay.
you talk to somebody local,
Okay.
and they know what's happening.
I can address that too when we get to that
Oh,
point.
great,
in the
thanks,
agenda.
Okay, so let's move to our delegation, our TransLink delegation, who have a presentation on a follow-up from our last meeting, actually.
Perfect,
Okay.
thank you, Jay. So what we've done is we compiled an update.
Sorry, I need to introduce you.
That's
So,
okay.
why don't we just go around, and just so that you can have everybody's name. So we'll go, Melanie, start with you.
Okay, Melanie Mason, I'm a counselor.
Running for mayor.
And so, Emma Chow, I'm a community planner.
Scott Snyder, community member.
Sue Ellen Fast, I'm a counselor and Highlands Trust trustee.
Haley Allen, community member.
And James Glaive, committee member.
Dave Hawking, committee member.
Staff.
Susanna Braun, Chair of the Fair Advisory Committee.
Thanks, Susanna.
Zach Zanaski, UBC Sustainability Scholar. Niklas Gutierrez, new mobility team TransLink.
Ashley Cho, Moved Me's project manager.
Okay, perfect. Okay, Ashley, over to you.
Okay, so this is something that TransLink's been working on for a couple months now. And this is where, this update is to show you where we're at. So for today's agenda, we're going to do a quick project overview of what's this new service that we're going to implement for this pilot program. Second, where are we at? And then, of course, what are the next steps that we're going to take in the upcoming months?
Yeah.
For the project overview, just to refresh everyone's memory, we divided this 12-month pilot into two phases. The first phase being that we're going to keep the same bus service, but the focus is going to be on the smartphone app that we're going to implement, which is Tap Ride. We just signed them on this past week. And the goal of the marketing, or the benefit around this service, is that you're going to be able to track your bus on this app on your smartphone. As well, you'll be able to book your seat in advance and get an estimated time of arrival of when the bus will come to your location. So it is still on the same bus route, but at least now you can say, oh, it's 10 minutes away, and that's when I should be able to book the see when the bus is arriving and where my location is. A good thing about this is that now we're gonna be able to get trip data because we have no insight into that right now. And also as well, we'll be getting a lot of feedback from the riders. Well, I actually want to be, picked up here, or I actually think this bus route right now is not working for me. And these are the kind of things that we're looking for. For phase 2, this is where there's ambiguity here, but the goal of it is that we want to offer on-demand service during select times. As we can imagine, we're already dealing with a lot of constraints here, whether that's we need to get people to the ferry on time, whether that's we only have certain roads that are operational for the bus itself. So we need to come up with a game plan that understands when we can offer these on-demand services and when it's going to be actually useful for locals on the island to use this service. Any questions so far?
Okay, that's interesting. Yeah. Slight change, good, thanks.
Just to give you guys an idea of what exactly we're getting from Double Map, there's 3 main technology components that we have. The first one is the customer app, which is something that you and I can use. We download the app and we can book our ride and track the bus in real time. The driver is also going to get a tablet as well, where now it's on the bus and they'll be able to receive notifications when someone's made a booking, where they need to pick them up. As well, they'll be able to track who is a no-show and also who is a walk-on. And this will be useful information for us as to how well we're doing with user adoption and where also people are getting picked up.
Are you going to describe that a bit more, or is this a time for questions on the tablet?
This is a time for questions for the tablet.
Okay, so presumably some people will have booked the night before. So when they start the run, they'll have an array of things sort of sitting there, right?
Yes, they can. Yeah. So they can book. We haven't set the exact parameters, but our understanding is you can book as much as a week in advance or even more. Yeah.
How will the driver know, like you mentioned walk-on?
Yeah.
So 10 people get on the bus and haven't used it, so he's just going to tap like 1, 2, 3, and 10.
Yep,
We
exactly.
picked up 10
So
people here.
what we could do is call out the name, like is Suzanne here, is Ashley here, and get them on first for the ones that are reserved, and
Got it.
then the walk-ons.
Got it.
to go.
Yeah, I mean, our drivers know quite a few people, so that could work, yeah.
Okay.
What about spotty service, like on the island and stuff like that?
We've already
Good
told Double Map to use the GPS booster. That will give us the best signal. To be fair, we won't know until we actually implement this,
Yeah.
where if it's going to work or not.
And will it interface with, like, say, the Compass card? Like, what do you
No,
do to-
there's no connection right now with the payment system. They're 2 separate entities right now.
It just would be interesting to see how many people are getting on this bus and then continue on the other side to see how many we've got on locals.
Right.
and-
I'd agree. We're not there yet. Next one.
Phase 4.
And then the third system that we have is the fleet management. And this is where we get all of our insights, where the data is collected, and us understanding where are the popular spots, where is demand happening, are people booking and not showing up. This is where we do all our analysis.
Yeah.
On which analysis?
Analysis, yeah.
Can I ask a question? How much time do you think the driver is going to be spending on a tablet per hour?
I haven't done an estimate for that. to be
Would it be
honest.
just like 5 minutes, or is it hard to say? I'm just
What do
curious.
you mean by which activities are you?
Just thinking of the routes that might be planned so that the bus is somewhere else, far side of Bowen Island and then back in Snug Cove within an hour. Just curious of how much driver time would be needed to operate the tablet to figure out where people are.
So the thing is, if people pre-book ahead of time, the algorithm should be able to sort out this and sort out which trips are feasible, which ones are not, so they should still be able to continue on the fixed route itself. They shouldn't need to be doing planning on their own. The algorithm will auto-accept or reject it for them.
Okay.
Okay. Now, this is a huge asterisk right here,
All right.
where we may, and I emphasize may, be able to have additional service hours for this pilot. This wouldn't come until phase 2. We still need to investigate whether this is feasible or not, if it's going to be value-added service. But that said, if we can discuss at a conceptual level, if we were to have a 3rd shuttle bus, what kind of days and times do you think would be useful?
Well, that's fairly easy to answer for regular commuting runs, because we have a water taxi service that connects with an express bus.
Yeah.
And we've got 30 people getting off that water taxi and you know, they don't have anyone,
Without cars.
no cars. So there's as many people, well, I shouldn't say as many, it's hard to know exactly how many people don't have cars, but there's a lot of people getting off that water taxi, and that's three times every afternoon.
I think also we have, on the north end of the island, we only have service on the weekend.
Yeah.
So I'm on the north end, so there's no transit during the week, and I have talked to some of the drivers, what would it take to get service there and maybe even to the golf course? And they were like, if we had one extra bus, we could probably cover that territory.
Yeah.
So I think definitely the weekdays would be.
Yeah.
Well, and now with the kids, getting the kids,
And,
you know, and stuff like that.
Yeah.
But I see the second thing, it says we can't offer it during
Oh.
the day on weekdays,
Mhm.
so.
I still would like to have, like, what's the nice to have, and then we'll go to the
Yeah.
realistic scenario. So it
Right.
sounds like the nice to have is during the syncing up the water taxi
Yeah.
during commuter times, and then the next priority would be.
Well, they say getting to the area that Rob was talking about, but also to South Bowen, like down the golf course area, like that's completely unserved.
But which days and times? she said.
Oh, days, yeah.
I
I think we're looking at the morning and afternoon commuter
Yeah.
times.
Yeah.
But weekends is when the golf course might be
Right.
Yeah.
busier.
Right.
And that golf course, just so I can show you,
Yeah.
oh,
On that map right there.
maybe I'll look at this map.
But the golfers
Down.
use transit, like they carry their bag? I don't know.
Sure.
Okay,
Yeah?
okay.
I would say there'd be a lot of commuters there though that would use that service.
On the weekend?
Not on the weekend.
No, not on the weekend,
No.
on the week,
Yeah.
during the week, so.
But this whole south area of Bowen is really, you know, underserved.
Yeah.
You can tell.
That's all that, and what Rob was talking about, the north end.
Yeah, which is
He is,
Yeah.
up past
Above
Thornton, right?
Friday, yeah.
And
Left.
there's also,
Yeah.
Right up there, yeah.
and then we also need to include Valhalla going up the east.
Yeah.
These to the crossroads, maybe not all the way up, but we could get up the crossroads.
up there.
No, that's just dormant.
Yeah, past it,
As a minimum.
yeah.
You've been
All
up
the way
there
to the
before.
end.
Yeah.
So I guess my
No,
other
I'll
question
just
is maybe
do
more
cross-
use cases.
I could- it's a-
For, you talk about commuters as one of your demographics.
Yes.
Is there also like children or seniors that we need to be mindful of? Or does the school bus already take care of the kids? We don't need to worry about that?
Well, there's part of, in that south area that is not really serviced by the school bus, so there's high school kids that are not, it's not, they can't get to,
And you have,
you know,
yes,
get to
you
the,
have kids
get to
going
the ferry easily, so.
Yes.
Yeah, so you've got high school kids who want to get to the ferry, so their parents are driving them now, up to the cove. And then you've got people from other parts of the island who are actually going down there towards the golf course where there's a school called,
Island
IDLC.
Discovery Learning Community.
yeah, IDLC, Island Discovery Learning Center, whatever. And so there are children moving around to schools both ways along that
South Road.
South Road and towards the cove where the ferry is. And maybe out of the north, I don't know how many school kids live up that way,
There's about 10 or 15 that go on the bus there.
on the school bus.
On the school.
Oh, okay, so there's already a school bus there.
Yeah.
Yeah, it's just that one area that's not really done service.
I have a question more for clarity on this. When you say we can't offer during the day on weekdays,
It's because of maintenance, you know, where they need to have, what we understand from that, they need to have all the buses and the spare because of maintenance issues. So they are at full capacity, and even if we increase the service hours, the vehicle is not available.
They don't have an extra bus.
No,
okay, so
no.
when you say we can't offer it, you're talking about the third shuttle,
Exactly.
Yeah.
not the on-demand
No.
service.
Well, we'd
Right.
want to use a third service to do the on-demand requests.
Yeah, the pure on the dedicated on demand.
Pure on-demand,
Yeah.
okay.
Yeah,
So-
so
so-
you have, well, maybe I didn't describe it very well, I definitely did
Yeah.
not. We'd keep, under this concept, we'd have the two buses doing their same old route. And then the third shuttle would be the pure on-demand service, in theory. Right now, if we were to do that, First Transit is saying logistically, we can't do that during certain time periods because we need that bus for our
So that seems most unfortunate because those are the times when people need to move around.
Yeah, and then my follow-up question would be during weekdays, during the day, off-peak hours, my understanding is First Transit runs one shuttle and alternates between the two routes.
Yeah.
Meaning we have
Yes.
3 shuttles on the island, 2 of which are not being used.
That's correct.
Yeah, so the thing is, whenever there's maintenance done, unfortunately, the bus needs to be taken off island. So right now, they're not feeling comfortable, like, oh, if there's a bus,
Oh, I see.
taken out of service, then they are down to 2. So yes, right now we have 3. That makes sense, but I think more work needs to be done there.
But so again, one, we will for sure, we work in a number of constraints here. One being that we should not disrupt the current service, right?
Right.
We should not, we all agreed on that. And so that's kind of the parameter we have, including maintenance issues and all that. Number 2, even on the existing resources, we will try to, like I said before, squeeze out as much on demand we can. So I guess in the beginning, that's why we talk about phases on. Even in the phase 2, when we start more conservative and say that you can deviate this much, but if it all works out, we could, and also, like Ashley said, depending on the data and the real demand, if we see a good uptake in one area, let's say the golf course, that would be data leading to this kind of dynamic routing. That's why it's so exciting for the planners to see real world data being used to distribute resources. But we have contractual agreements, so no matter what our good wishes on actually trying to try on demand, even if we had the money, it would be a huge deal to go beyond these extra hours. And I'd like to ask too, these cases you said were wonderful, but how about, do you see any options where we could maybe increase ridership from very low or no numbers now, maybe even attract non-transit users? I was thinking, I don't know, late night service perhaps, or
Or the restaurants or whatever.
If you could meet the last water taxi that comes over at 11, because that's the one that no one has a car. So you've been in town late and you've come in by the 257, you catch the water taxi and you now have to figure, so I think that would be, you'd get some unique ridership there. Because people then could really plan for that last one instead of having someone to come down.
What time is that?
I think it's 11 on weekdays and midnight on
Yeah.
weekends, I think it is.
It's later than that, it's 1 AM on weekends.
They later rise at 1 AM, is that
They
right?
rise.
Yeah, what, okay, arrives at, and then you get it at 12.
Yes, 12 on the night service for sure.
Yeah, as long as you're late.
It's late.
It's midnight. I don't know if we can get to
Yeah,
that.
midnight
The bus
is
driver.
7:30, weekends is 12.
But with the right communication, that maybe that case another could be an interesting thing to try out. To say that this is really new service, right? Beyond what we have now. So.
Is there a schedule for the maintenance of the
So that's
bus?
what we need to work with
I
first.
mean, is there, because I guess it's hard for me to get my mind around that we always have to have one dedicated bus. So I'm just wondering, is there a schedule that the bus leaves for every 3rd Monday for its routine check?
I think there's routine ones, but then of course there's always the ad hoc, they don't foresee this one. So I think that's a more difficult problem for them to solve.
I think that the penalties to TransLink if they screw up suddenly are pretty hefty. So it's one of the.
You can just.
But Scott?
Just thinking of the window of time, is it kind of in a shift, like an extra driver being on? What kind of hours are we looking at, like a 4-hour window or an 8-hour window? Thinking of the value of having a 1 o'clock arrival. If the driver's working from 9 to 1, that's not ideal. Is it kind of a 4-hour window? Is it reliant upon paying a driver a certain number of hours? Is there a shift for a driver?
That's the math that we need to do. They are open to adding another shift or finding another driver to take care of those shifts.
Mhm.
So we'll figure out those logistical issues when we decided this is the type of service that we want.
In terms of the current non-bus users, it might be really good to try some, my suggestion would be, to try those morning runs, David, like yours, where you can hardly take the bus. Right? So coming from the far end of the island into the cove, those are the people who drive in to catch the 5:30, 6:30, and 7:30 when it's dark and rainy and they don't have a minute extra. And they leave their cars down in the cove all day, taking up parking, of valuable village space.
Yeah.
And they may, they might be open. To, if there was a group that might change their behavior, it might be that group. Because going on the way back, it's easier because the
Right.
bus is waiting and
So
you
we have
pick
a
up the bus.
We have a pre-rush hour group potentially that we could develop.
Yeah, it's,
I
it's,
mean, it adds time to their commute, but at the same time, it takes away that, you know.
I think they tend to be the ones that might be more smartphone
Yeah.
technology anyway, and they're the ones who might be willing to sit on a bus and work, like do your email and things like that. And, because that's what they're gonna do all the way into town, and that's what I see.
And they feel more confident to do that if they had a reservation kind of thing.
Yeah.
Well, that's
Instead of
it, that's the main
Should have,
thing.
the bus shows up
Yeah.
at 4 AM and 5 in the morning dark, and
Yeah.
my car's sitting there, and I gotta be on this ferry, so.
Yeah.
So that assurance factor.
Yeah. Yeah, because I got a meeting that starts at 8.
Yeah.
Or whatever, yeah. So those would be who I see as the high value converts. Because if you can get them onto and they would be the ones most attracted, I think, by the machine learning. We've got a bunch of software engineers and all kinds of people on Bowen. And they might be the ones that would be more attractive to the mobility and people who are on their devices all the time.
So
Possibly.
I'll just add a little bit and then go to Scott. So my conversations with some of the folks in my area at far end of the Blue Water Run it's the time issue. And it's not in the morning. The morning is fine because you get there pretty well as fast as a car, pretty well. So it's coming home at night. And this is something that I've been carrying on about for years. It's about how the buses sit and wait until all the cars are gone and then hang around for a while and then finally leave. And I gave up taking the bus home because it was so slow.
How late are we talking?
Now, I don't know, I think they've adjusted the schedule, so I don't know, but whenever, because I'm not commuting very much anymore, so I don't know, but it used to take me about 40 minutes to come home by bus because of the waiting in Snug Cove, and it would take me 15 minutes on my scooter. So I bought a scooter.
One reason, correct me if I'm wrong, actually, but being up late night is because the bus is not running anyway.
Yeah.
Past 9:30 or.
Past
Right.
9, yeah.
So then we have the vehicle for sure, and it's not no maintenance issue. It's just to add another shift on. On the other hand,
But like
The
Scott's
rider-
question is a
yeah,
good
the
one,
rider
how long can the shift be? If it's basically a 1 hour shift.
No, it'd be
You have some
more
things.
minimum for the shift, or
Yeah.
8 hours, like, I wouldn't anticipate anything less than that, it wouldn't make
Yeah.
sense for
But
us to hire another person to do that. right?
until the last ferry.
Yeah. Scott?
Just thinking about Sue Ellen's point of, like, if there's west side service that went they're all out in back roads, so I can see someone sitting on there waiting for 10 minutes, but if someone was able to drive to the auxiliary fire
Yes.
station, park there, and then if
Parking lot.
everybody knew that at 5 o'clock the bus would be there, people who just wanna kind of park their car there, and at least they're safe from driving across the island and taking up valuable space in the cove, it might save some driving
Absolutely,
that
the
way.
parking lot would be a great
But
option.
I don't think people are gonna get on the bus in Blue Water if they know it also has to go to the golf course and then come back, but they may be willing to just drive 5 minutes, park,
Yeah.
hop on the bus.
At the fire station, you say?
It's
Yeah.
auxiliary fire hall,
So
yeah.
there's a parking right there, it's actually on the transit site.
Yeah.
Yeah, there's only a couple spots, but there is one there.
So Ellen, you have another?
Yeah, I'm not a regular pub user, but I know that on and off over the years, there has been something called the whale or.
And I talked to the pub owner
Great
today
Whale.
about that.
Okay, and just thinking that if there was kind of a couple of runs when people knew that later on in the evening the bus was leaving, then maybe some of the pub folks would
Yeah.
get on to the bus and possibly.
And I talked to the Bowen Island pub, I think that's the name,
Yeah.
and they said they're interested in helping out either by having posters there so that to advertise and to maybe have like a contest giveaway, like if you book on the app, you have an entry and then we'll pick a winner and you get like a beer or something. I don't know. We haven't decided that,
Yeah.
but that was the concept.
The idea
Yeah.
is good, yeah. None?
I just wonder if you reached out to the Caring Circle as well, because they run a driver's program for the seniors, so getting people to medical appointments and things like that, I can see that sort of filling the middle gap as well.
I
And we,
just had a call with TransLink, Megan Johnston, about the stakeholder list, and we added the pub and a Carrot Circle and Sky. The list of community organizations.
Okay, we've been kind of random in our description because we didn't read the second bullet.
We'll filter the ideas down, but these are a
Yeah.
good start.
And have ongoing conversations with Emma. And,
Just
Can I
one
offer a few comments?
Sure, go for it.
So I'm the biggest skeptic of this. As I've said before at previous TransLink demonstrations, I take one point of comfort from what you've said this evening, which is that you're not going to mess with the commuter schedule going to the ferry in the mornings. However, I am very disappointed that points that we've raised repeatedly in previous conversations, you don't seem to have investigated them. For example, the spotty cell phone coverage that's already been mentioned. The desideratum that the bus should leave before the cars get off the ferry, which is logistically challenging. You'd have to park the bus in front of the ferry gates and have everybody get on the buses, both buses straight away. And it doesn't sound like you've done anything about that. And we've mentioned to you repeatedly the desire for the bus, if there is any extra capacity to put on a third bus, that the absolute top desideratum is to meet the water taxi, the 3 water taxis in the afternoon that arrive. David would probably know what time, but anyway, it's between about 4 and 6, something like
Yes,
that.
4 and 6, yeah.
Which come, as he has already said, at about sort of halfway through the ferry schedule. Those are 3 things that we've mentioned to you repeatedly, and it doesn't sound to me like you've done anything about looking into these. So I've come to the conclusion this evening that this whole scheme is just designed so that you can gather numbers, ridership numbers, which you don't have. Would you like to comment on that?
So was the first point about cell phone coverage? No.
Yes.
No, my last point.
Yeah.
My last point is what I'd like you to respond to, that this is all a scheme. It's nothing about serving Bowen Island. It's about that you want ridership numbers so that you can see what the ridership is on Bowen Island, because you haven't invested in the technology on the Bowen buses in the past to collect those statistics. So what you're going to do, this is me being very cynical, right? What you're going to do is put a lot of people to a lot of trouble that they have to actually remember at 9 o'clock in the night that they have to book their ride on the bus to get on the 6:30 ferry. It's just one more thing you have to do before you go to bed to be sure that you have your spot on the bus. This is very inconvenient. At the moment, the system as it is for the commuters actually works fine. It doesn't need any fixing. So my suggestion to you is that you want to collect ridership numbers, and you've devised this as a way of doing it. That's what I'd like you to respond to, please.
Yeah, I would consider the tremendous positive side effect, but I can tell you from our side, this project, this pilot, was not chosen on those premises at all. It is for sure an kind of omelette we're cooking along as we go. That's why we have this conversation with you. But the cell phone, some of the points you mentioned, the cell phone coverage is of course outside our control. So in this boat together with you, so that's why we are augmenting the technology and so on. So we'll be working on all island. And I said again, we are working very hard, and we will fail completely if we erode the service in any way. So the way I see it, you will still have what you had before, but with some accelerated benefits that I hope TransLink will roll out anyway, including the GPS tracking. It's just that they haven't done it yet, so now we get it a little bit in advance. So no, that's I don't agree with that picture at all.
Okay, well, I just hope those points will be minuted. As I say, I've been very, very sceptical about this whole scheme from the beginning, but I'm very happy indeed to be proved wrong, and I hope that your ideas will work. But you do need to listen to us. As I say, we've repeated these top points of concern or wishes several times, and you come back and it sounds to me like you haven't actually spent any time on Bowen Island really riding the bus. Have you actually ridden the bus routes?
I sure have.
We have many times, yeah.
Well, that's good. I'm glad to hear that. Okay, that's all I wanted to say, David. Thank you.
you.
Okay, thanks, Suzanne. I saw another, well,
Just one other, and I'm looking to Emma because she's got all the input from everybody on Bowen from the transportation plan, and maybe you've got a better grip on it. But it occurs to me that there are events through the months, like the Legion lunches and
Yeah.
the Legion evenings, you know, when they have the dinners and Friday nights, right?
Friday night.
And the
Remembrance Day. or
Remembrance,
something like
the annual events, but then there's also these weekly and monthly ones, which sometimes are for people, seniors, or people who, Friday nights when you might not want to drive, because you might want to have a few, a few drinks. And those are kind of patchy, and I'm not sure where you'd find them, except on the Facebook events forum, probably would be the
I
best
think
place.
but liaising with Caring Circle,
Yeah,
that's a good
Yeah,
start for some of those.
involved in some of those,
Yeah, and the hub.
yeah. I was just thinking about the Legion,
Yeah,
because we
they
have
were,
you
they're
know,
the same, but,
kind of,
Okay.
Is the Legion
So-
on the stakeholder list?
Yes.
yeah,
okay.
okay.
And I've also added Bowen Recreation for all those after-hour sports uses of the field. Parking is always
That's good.
an issue there too.
Good. I know sometimes in the summer day camps and stuff, I don't know if that's much of that going on this time.
So
Yeah, we-
it sounds like the list is being compiled and,
Yeah, we hope next time maybe bring someone from marketing. They have been in the last months, I would say, aggressively interested in how the campaign and so on, the communication and education could look like for something like this, because I'm the first to acknowledge that, you know, it's a bit hard to grasp at first. What's the new things, and there's phases, and maybe you can see the timeline, but I mean, the three main segments being the islanders, the commuters, and sub-segments being, you know, seniors and school children and all that, but also the tourists and the weekenders. I mean, they're crafting like special messages and communication approaches to all these groups. But all that input is super valuable, right? Including face-to-face and bus racking, you name it, right? So I think your input there would be super interesting, because no matter how many times I ride the bus here or visit the Bowfest and so on, I mean, your knowledge about these events is not something you can Google.
So maybe we'll.
Just a second, I've got a couple of questions, and then we'll move on, okay, Ashley?
Yeah.
Okay, Melanie and then Scott.
And maybe you can save this question to the end, this is one I have as well, is how are you gonna evaluate the success of it? Like, what is Translate hoping? What does success look like to you guys?
Great
So-
question, Melanie.
One thing, of course, because this is new technology, all around the world these pilots are running. There are variations, like so we want to make sure that the kind of tech reliability and all the beta, the testing before we launch any of this. But then this technology is not like set in stone, right? So there's a number of features and bells and whistles and that we could turn on, but we perhaps not choose to first. So in a kind of, I like to see it as a kind of a co-creation, chance to co-create this service together. So the kind of dynamic input on the technology and the service, and then obviously the customer satisfaction. I mean, one thing is Translink is all about ridership, and but the customer satisfaction here we maybe not see super much new ridership. We hope we do, right? But
I hope so, just with the being able to know when the bus is
yeah,
there, that's huge.
but for those who are already taking the bus, so that's why I asked the question about non-transit riders right now. I think that group is super interesting. Maybe these people taking a car, but for the transit users, I mean, we hope this phase one is all about transparency, right? It's about where is the bus, where am I, how can the bus driver see me, even if I'm in Artisan Square and I don't really, waving or looking. How can we make a safe pickup and drop off even in the dark, or
In the dark.
how can I kind of have another coffee knowing that the bus is actually 7 minutes away, I don't have to run. And perhaps if we are lucky, if we manage to, we shouldn't promise where is the ferry in all this, right?
That's how we
I
catch the
know.
bus.
So, I was joking because you're already using your smartphone, right? we as a light, but but the customer the satisfaction part, which I see is super important, right? I mean, it should be a fun, productive commute. And then the third thing I have to say from Translink side is what we're doing right now, the communication to run the pilot like this with you and the municipality. We're gonna have to do it many more times, just to see how this works out. It's like awesome for us and all your feedback. And then, yeah, that's a few of the things that I think is super important. For TransLink, but it's a little bit internal. You know, TransLink is enterprise consisting of a number of subsidiaries, CNBC and First, and being a contractor. So just to get everyone online and on board and doing something like this, doesn't only take TransLink, but it's also CNBC and in this case First. So for us, it's super important to make that, including the drivers training, talking about with the unions and safety features and all that. So, yeah.
Thanks, Scott.
Just a question, Susanna mentioned that, you know, at 9 o'clock, no one's gonna, or some people might not wanna have to book a trip. They don't have to, they could use the service as it is. What would the perks be to booking a trip if they're not concerned about getting a seat? If you can walk on and be pretty sure you're either gonna sit or stand for 10 minutes, what would the advantage be? What's the perk?
Slides and phases. No.
I think I have this coming up down the line, but just to quickly answer your question, so one of the promotions that we're looking at right now is to have free ridership for the first upcoming weeks of the launch. So that's to actually get people incentivized to, one, register on the app, but then two, actually want to use the service because it's free, and the only reason why you get a free ride is if you book it through the app. If you don't, you have to pay. And so that's our, right now, part of the parking campaign that we'll have to incentivize ridership.
So that's kind of a marketer's response. So our marketing team are very on the incentive part. I hope still at the whole location thing, you know, knowing where the bus is and where you are.
Do you only get that if you book a trip?
Yeah.
Can you can't look at it?
No.
Okay.
No, it's all because it's a proprietary system, right? Until TransLink invests in all it. So it's the only way you can see that is through our app.
Okay.
We are, and now again, it's in the same ballpark as this extra service. We are talking to BC Ferries to try to integrate the exact location of the ferry as well into the system, and that will be another data stream only going to the app. So it's all kind of about the transparency and location in the first phase.
Can I just, so
Thank you.
if the ferry was, that's a really interesting element.
Melanie's getting excited.
Very excited. All right, so what's happening? We have the technology vendor sign, that's DoubleMap. BC Ferries is eager to support us on this project, and one of the things that we are talking with them is actually putting a GPS on this ferry so that it's integrated into our app and you can track not only the bus, but the ferry as well.
Okay, that starts to become very interesting.
No promises yet. We still have to talk to DoubleMap, like if this is feasible, and then how does this work with timetable and estimation. So this is just a concept, we're not promising anything yet, but this is what we're investigating right now.
Excellent, thanks.
And then we have Zach. So Zach's here to help us with the project. He'll be helping with market research and also with our operations as well. And we'll talk into the last point, we'll talk about this more with more detail, but we also have some of our super users. The first ones are signed up, but of course we still need more to help us out with the beta phase. So the key milestones that we have here, we can see the technology vendor, it's in yellow right now. I know the color's not so great. That's just because we signed them last week and that it's pushing our development timeline, but they still say we're on track. We just want to monitor it closely. And for our beta testing, that's coming up next, and our engagement team, Megan, who is spearheading that, is our marketing to get the public informed about this and how they can use the app and whatnot. So we're launching in Q4, and then for phase 2, that's when we'll do early spring in Q2 as well. But more importantly, what the next steps are. So we have something called a benchmarking survey, and what we've done is we've approached 3 marketing firms. We've issued an RFP. We actually got them back today. And the goal of this intercept survey is that we want to interview 100 people and be like, what do you use for transportation modes? Whether you're a bus rider or non-bus rider, what kind of trips do you use it for? And this way will help us dictate what type of on-demand service would be useful for the Bowen Islanders. And because even though it's great that we have this discussion, and I think you guys are all smart, intelligent people, I do think it's important we give the locals a chance to actually have their voice heard.
Great.
Transit users and non-transit users.
Yeah.
Mm-hmm,
Yeah.
This also will capture like smartphone usage literacy, not as a secondary goal, and also just hint at the on-demand concept testing, like when would you actually use this? So that's being launched in mid-October. If you have any key locations, like right now, we're doing the in-person interviews near the ferry, at the library. If you have other suggestions of where we should be doing this, please let us know, and then we'll
A
send
couple
it.
of shops, the general store, or the little shopping center right above the general store, the square.
One of the common places for community groups to intercept people
Yes.
is a little card table outside the general store, our grocery store.
But you gotta talk to Nancy.
You need to talk to Nancy.
And schedule it.
In the interest of time, if you have any recommendations, feel free to email me or Emma.
Sure.
And,
Yeah.
sorry, whatever email you have, and then we'll know. Super users. So this is happening at the beginning of November, and we have 3 different types of testers that we need. One is the app tester, so they test the smartphone. They can be a bus rider or a non-bus rider for this first phase, and they'll be the ones providing feedback of how accurate is it showing me on the map with my location, is there any bugs and whatnot. There's also the computer tablet tester, so that's also available on these types of technology modes, so we would also like to have people testing it out on the tablets. And then the phone tester is like the nice to have, where we want to see what the workflow is. If you weren't able to have a smartphone, how can you be part of this program as well? I put the link up of where you can register. It's a 5-question survey, just asking like what's your name, what's your email, what kind of tester you want to be, and what telecom provider you have, essentially.
Phone tester, you mean like a landline?
Yeah.
Thank you.
Okay, so you're looking for, just to go back to this, you're looking for us to get people to go to this site. So,
Go to that Google form to express
Yeah.
interest in what it is.
Yeah. so we need to,
How many
Move
people
this.
are you looking for?
20, 30, I'd say it's a good
And
number.
do they need to be on the current bus route, or are you looking there for people, or just island, cross island?
I'd like a mix of bus riders and non-bus riders, because then the bus riders can actually track it on the route itself. But if we have some non-bus riders, just so we can see, there's so many different types of phones, so many different types of tablets, like, I just want to make sure it works across all the
And you want them to
different
be on
devices.
the bus route.
Some of them, yes, for sure.
But some of them
Give me non.
Okay,
Yeah.
because that's what I'm always curious about, is my only concern so far is we won't get any increased ridership if we don't expand the service area.
And that's,
well,
Or pull them
Well,
on the
there
cars.
might be,
there are other reasons that we might expand the ridership if people felt that the whole thing was a bit more
that's part of this
predictable and
library
secure.
benchmark
Yeah.
survey, because we want to understand what the pain points are and why are you not using the bus? What
Yeah.
stops you from that?
Okay, so how are we going to, I mean, if you only want 20 people, I mean, a way to get to a whole lot would be to put it out through the municipality, but then you might get 100 people. I'm not, any ideas about how we should do this? Or do you want 100 people? No,
I don't.
no.
I mean, we can contact, like, people always say, like, I want to do this, and maybe later on they change their mind, but let's cap it at 50 at the most, I would say.
So what do you think? Should we put it out?
I think you could put it out on that or board and everything else, you'd have 50 like that.
Yeah.
I was gonna say, when you're down there at the ferry or you're doing some of these interceptions, I suggest you meet those people coming off the water taxis that David has been talking about, not just the regular ferry coming in, but those folks coming up the ramp.
Yeah,
Uh,
that'd be good ones.
Perfect for your initiative.
Yeah.
And yeah, you can put it on the Facebook group and then just shut it off when you've got,
Yeah.
what you want.
Say
I
first.
think I'd be more comfortable with it actually going through the BIM website.
I was thinking do the BIM communications.
Sure.
No?
Otherwise, you only get the Facebook users.
Yeah,
Sure.
that way you only get the BIM connected people, but still.
If you need to go to the Facebook, then
So Emma, I mean, you could go to the communications.
I just think it's a little bit more neutral there. 'Cause
I-
If you're gonna put on Facebook, then it attributes to whoever posts it, so I think
Yeah, I
if it
agree.
goes through
This
the
is
BIM, it just keeps it kind of.
Yeah, it's a municipal initiative along with Translink, and I think it's better that it comes from the municipal shops.
And the municipality has social channels as well. right?
Yeah.
It does. It doesn't nearly have the same numbers, like followers or whatever, as the Bow and everything else.
Well, what I'm thinking is if you put it out on the municipal channel for a week or something and see who you get, and then if you're deciding, well,
we need
we
more.
need
we'll-
more of
we'll
this
do
type
more.
of people, then
Yeah.
go
Actually-
ask for them.
Let me see if I can switch this onto SurveyMonkey, I think, because I can create 2 different links and then I can track where they actually come from.
Okay.
So that might be a better idea, because then I can be like, I only want 10 from Facebook group and 10
Right.
from here.
Okay.
And I can trace that pretty easily. So let me get you a new link.
Okay.
Okay, and then you can contact Emma, and Emma will then get it into our municipality's communications approach. Okay,
I'm
thanks.
just typing my key.
Yeah.
Actually. Okay, tech support. We do still want to have someone that's from the island, to help with any questions that someone might have if they have a problem with the app. We're gonna still have a social media team to monitor this, but I think it's also helpful just to have someone on island and have that support. We did approach a few people. We haven't had any luck. As you can see on the slide there, we have Leo and Richard that we've attempted, and same with Brian, and we haven't, that needs to be on the slide, but no luck. So do we have any ideas of who could be good tech?
So while you're thinking, so of course, I mean, we will come, TransLink's marketing team will come and have at events and so on, but someone like this could even, you know, have a talk at the seniors lunch, or being a little bit more, you know, grounded here, and sit down with someone and help them sign up and all that. So it's not like hardcore IT support, but it's more, you know, help people sign up, get people familiar with the technology, maybe do a little bit more promotion. So a little bit be our feet on the ground to an extent. So I'm saying this because it doesn't have to be some IT guru or.
Well, we could come up with some people, but I don't want to mention people's names at a meeting like this, but we could just do an email, and, you know, I can think of one person right now.
Yeah.
Fair enough, let us
Yeah.
know.
Yeah.
Okay.
We'll go through Emma.
Sure.
Yeah.
Everyone
Okay.
email me and I'll
Yeah.
put together a list.
Okay.
Okay.
Great.
One idea, but without mentioning names, might just be the people who help with recreation programs. We're already used to dealing with different folks and stuff. They tend to have,
Different locations?
well, they're used to dealing with people, and they're, sometimes they're juggling several different work things.
Like go to the Vic's office there? The
Uh,
rec office.
I'll talk to you later.
I had also suggested just library staff be trained in general, not to overburden them or anything, but just so they have knowledge if someone comes in.
They're mostly
on this
volunteers.
slide.
They're mostly volunteers.
Yeah. The engagement plan has been drafted out. It's going to begin in early November. The core focus for the engagement team is 1, to raise awareness of the program itself, and 2, more importantly, educate them on how you could register, how to use the app. So this will be a lot of hand-holding, will be available to the public and to key stakeholders on Bowen Island. So for example, on BC Ferries, leading up to a week of the launch, we'll have a team out that'll be like, hey, have you heard of this app? And then they'll get people to register on that ferry, because they can't run away from us. And then for the library, we're gonna actually have training sessions for them so that they understand what the app is doing, and that way if we do have people who come to the library like, what's going on?
Yeah.
They'll be able to help them out.
Very good.
We are thinking of I guess this is, I can never remember the seniors lunch,
Tuesdays.
Yes, Tuesdays we'll use that, I think, just before the launch. And then if you have any other suggestions of who we need to train, that would be a good idea. I know tourism would be a good one, but they're closed right now, my understanding is, so it wouldn't be till the spring. But I don't know who else would be good to approach or would need to know about this and be personally trained.
I mean, in addition to this, to speak to the pub and all that to get information material up. That's
Yeah.
about, not only marketing, but actually educational. What is
Yeah.
it? How do I sign up? And all that.
Yep.
There will be more static, but nothing can beat like a person. Really, right? So.
So that's where we're at right now with our engagement campaign. And that's our presentation in acting.
Wow. Okay, you told us that, oh, you can do it in 15 minutes, but we put in 45, and you've been 50. Oh, we've been 50.
We've been.
We've been 50. So any further questions? What are ferry times for you?
We missed it. It's
I
okay.
missed it, sorry about that.
It's okay.
Okay. Okay, well, thank you very much.
8:50 is next.
8:50 is the next one.
Mm.
Yeah.
Okay.
Sounds good.
Yeah.
No, I like to say, you know, to everyone, this is not the new service that TransLink is launched. It's a pilot we do together with you. I think it's important to still, you know, keep the expectations low, but realistic. In that, you know, the schedule is pretty cramped to get the technology on site to educate people and you know, iron out the kinks and so on. So just everyone be aware. Meanwhile, the loop will be running, the bus service will be there, and so on.
So for, as you're needing the various pieces that you were sort of referencing, you know, if you're not getting them, coordinate with Emma, and Emma can send a note out to us to say, okay, folks, we said we do such and such, or we really need some testers now, and so on, and then we can see what we can do.
Yeah, I think for us, just the key takeaways, it would be one, to post the super user survey, the
Yeah.
super user testers that we
Yeah.
need. Two, if you have recommendations of where we should do the intercept survey that's happening in October, that would be immediate. And then to deal with the tech support part-time, any recommendations would be.
If you have any major events that we don't already know about, then please, we missed Bowfest, sorry about that, but if
Christmas
there anything
craft
else?
fair. The Christmas craft fair is
Christmas
Halloween at the Loop.
That'll be in the dark.
So we make sure we have people there, you know.
Well,
No, the Christmas craft fair.
Christmas craft fair, it might even be full already, I don't know.
It is full.
Yeah.
It is full. You would need to.
You might need to be outside the door or something
Yeah.
like that. And,
Yeah, we're
But anyway-
lined up waiting to get in.
Yeah.
There's 100 people right there.
yeah, they'd be in a lineup to get into the gym. And so,
So the marketing team knows about that,
Okay.
and I don't know if they've signed up though.
Let's sign up.
Just a couple of things then, for the idea of the testers that we want, if you could probably send some copy to Emma, so that she's not inventing this, and so, that, you know, you're actually describing it the way you're wanting it. In terms of the tech support, probably a little bit about what that person would do as well would be useful. Like, I don't, obviously not a detailed job description, but a few points as to what you're looking for. And that would help in terms of, you know, us filling in those blanks for you.
We can even do something that goes like a job ad
Yeah,
for part-time.
exactly, yeah. Okay. Okay, well, thanks so much, really appreciate that.
good, yeah, thank you.
Yeah, thank you for coming.
Okay, now we're going to move item about BC Ferries and what happened this morning up to this next action item. So,
Two on table items.
Yes.
yeah, there's two on table items. You can see there's the note from Darren. Susanna, so the note from Darren is on table for everyone to see. Also, the note from Allison about using the water taxi is on table for everyone to see as well. The one she sent to a few of us. Okay, so Susanna, why don't we turn it over to you for a sec? To tell us
Sure.
what you...
Is the member of the public still there?
Yes.
Yes,
Yeah, okay.
Trish.
Yeah, Trish, why don't
And
you
has
just come to the
she
table?
seen the email from Darren Gannett?
I'm just making sure she's got it here.
Super. So, Trish, after we heard from you and other people, I wrote to BC Ferries, to the communications person at Victoria, saying if they could give us a response this afternoon, that would be great. And rather to my amazement, within about 5 minutes, I had a reply, which gives the information in his email about the people being left behind, including 8 students. And then he goes on to say that the boat is operating on a B license at the moment. Now that has a 392 passenger capacity. Now, as you rightly said, we were running into these problems on the 7:30 ferry at the end of the school year in June, and they upped the license to an A license, which allows them to have 432 passengers. It means 2 extra crew for the whole morning shift, all 16 sailings. So it's quite expensive for them. And that's why he says that they use the license B, the B license, as their default, because it's not very often that we leave foot passengers behind. However, as you see from his message, apparently we have gone over the B license number 392 a couple of times in the past few weeks, almost always on the 7:30 sailing, but it's never on the same day, so it's very difficult for them to plan ahead. And they have asked us if we know of particular reasons why there might be extra people, if we can inform them. They need a bit of notice. They don't want to be scrambling people. There are people on call, but they're never usually very conveniently located to get to Horseshoe Bay. It's better to plan ahead, and they are prepared to put on the extra 2 crew if they know in advance. Now, I feel that is not really pragmatic. I don't think if they're running so close to the license on the 7:30 so often, we need a different remedy. And the email from Alison Morse said that in the past there was an arrangement with BC Ferries whereby they chartered Cormorant Marine to run a boat at 7:30, and this would take up to 40 commuters. We don't really want the kids on that boat. The kids need to be on the ferry because that's where the school buses meet them. So my suggestion to the committee would be that as a matter of urgency, we ask BC Ferries to consider this. I'm pretty sure it's cheaper for them than putting on, to do that for 5 days a week is cheaper than for them to be putting on 2 extra crew for Monday to Friday. But it would be up to them to cost it. So that would be my recommendation to the committee.
A point of clarification, so presumably the 2 extra crew, they can't just have them run on the 7:30, so they'd end up signing them.
No, that's the point. They have to run the whole shift.
Right, so the whole, so I can see why it becomes quite expensive for one ferry.
Yeah.
Okay, that's an interesting idea. Comments, thoughts?
Yeah, so I totally agree with that. I mean, if they're running that close, that students are getting stranded, and us informing them ahead of time, that's not going to be a realistic solution. I think, Susanna, as you said, give them the choice, and I really like this idea of this, obviously, the water taxi being used, and we've been talking about trying to get a pedestrian service over there for quite a while, so this is a great example of where it can be needed, and I think we should do exactly that and move ahead with that.
James?
I'm curious about the communications aspects of this. How would BC Ferries have something on the dock saying, adults that way, students stay here, kind of thing? Like, how do you self-select? What's that
I just kind of
mechanism?
saw it as maybe just an extension of what's already happening now in the afternoon, so that it would just become sort of that really quick commuter connection.
Yeah.
And if we
If
could
a thought
connect
occurs
it
to me, which is that if it left 5 minutes before the ferry, there wouldn't be any problem at all because the school buses only arrive in the nick of time.
And if you could connect with Peter's bus on the other side, you could,
There's
it's
also,
just almost like an enhanced service.
Trish?
I was gonna say that most people know, once the word is out, there's a water taxi running, whether it comes through Vinfax or whoever, or Facebook. The adults will be down there in a shot to be on that one, because they don't have to be on that 7:30 ferry with the kids. There'll be a fight with adults running out on that water taxi.
We'll have to hire policemen.
You get across faster.
Yeah.
The other one is what we've noticed too, is certain times of the year, when the elementary kids come off, and if they're on that 7:30 run going on a field trip somewhere, you're bundling up even more, and it gets even another
Yeah.
issue.
Scott?
Just to address that point, when we do have elementary kids on, we do let BC Ferries know in advance.
Right.
So they have made it a Class A for when we have 40 or 60 kids coming
Right.
over. I like Susanna's idea of the water taxi leaving 10 minutes before, just so if you get down there and it's full, you have time to get back on the other ferry. That seems to make sense, 7:20 or
Yeah.
whatever.
Yeah.
10 minutes before seems to make.
Well, it'd be nice if they could line it up with the water taxi, if that's, I don't know how, because there's a chunk of space there, I think, right there.
What do you mean, like,
The bus?
Scott is saying?
Oh, no, sorry, yeah, sorry, Peter, my
Yeah.
apologies, Peter's bus, yeah.
The trouble with Peter's bus is he's waiting for the other one as well, but anyway, we don't need to go there right now. But, I mean, there are 257s every 20 minutes, so
Yeah.
it certainly helps.
Exactly.
If you leave early, you're gonna get.
I think we need to try and solve one problem at a time.
Yeah, Sue Ellen.
We could move that
All
BIMTAC
right.
recommend to council that BC Ferries be requested to provide a 40-person water taxi leaving Snug Cove 10 minutes before the 7:30 ferry, as was done in the 1990s.
On Monday to Friday.
On Monday to Friday,
Well done.
okay?
But I think having.
Before we put that on, any comments?
Well, sorry, I was just gonna say, is that something, we wanted to give them the choice?
Yes.
Because that maybe would make it, because one of those two things has to happen.
Okay, actually, that's a really good point. That's a really good point.
Right?
And then we should have a whereas. And the whereas would be, whereas,
Whereas overloads on the 7:30 ferry are happening more often, but on different days, but unpredictably on days of the week.
And that BC
How's that for a
Ferries
whereas?
has now
And
canceled.
nonetheless, but nonetheless are unacceptable.
yes, but nonetheless are unacceptable. So we'll just pause for a minute while Steph is racing through these words.
And did we not want to add also that it would be BC Ferry's decision as to whether they want to
Yes.
do Class A?
Exactly.
Or,
Yeah,
did you say
exactly.
that?
So it was the whereas is a problem. The way to solve this problem, we'll leave it to BC Ferries, but it must be solved.
And it must be.
It must be
one of-
solved. And
yeah,
there's two
You
options,
choose.
a Class A or the water
Yeah.
taxi.
Yeah, exactly.
The other issue too is, even just eliminating that, is the fact if they start pulling it like they did in the spring where they were leaving it looking just like that, but all the passengers were on, because as we all know, when you walk on that boat and they're clicking away, there is really no accurate count on that ferry at all. If there was ever an accident, you can kiss it goodbye, because nobody knows exactly how many people are on that boat.
We
So
have
they
talked to
can-
them about that. They claim that they're trained to do it fairly
Oh.
well, and they're doing it.
And
They're doing it not
I
when
can
people
click as
go
fast
by.
until I hit 392 and I can stop clicking too.
They're doing it when people go through the little gate, not when they walk by the clicker. But anyway,
Yeah,
that is their
so-
issue, you're right.
So they could still have as many passengers walk off and then say, hey, we're stopping at B because then we're not gonna fill the cars up. So what also was happening is, yes, the first group of people on the buses or whoever gets there first walks on, then they load the cars up.
Yeah.
Then they have a habit of letting the stragglers and the parents that decide to come at the last second, let those kids run. And you can sit for 5 minutes watching people run to get on the boat, and then you will get left behind. And I think there's an issue with the fact that a lot of parents are already sitting in that ferry line for a good half hour before they get on that boat, and then to still get left behind because now they're loading passengers over and above. So there's still that issue as well
Well,
that they need to deal with.
except that if we're taking 40 people away,
You're hoping. I don't
Well,
know on the numbers.
I think the primary thing is that the high school students get to
Yeah.
class, right? And if that's the main thing that we focus on first. The other thing I was gonna say was, we've got some of these whereases, we're in our whereas
Yeah.
from the last time.
Okay.
So they're right here if you want them,
oh, good.
you know, but the numbers of,
So nothing, what happened with this then?
it passed, you know, well,
So,
another recommendation passed, don't worry. It's just because we're starting to create whereases that are almost the same as the ones we did before on several
council is
occasions.
gonna already be doing this because of this.
They are doing this, they're gonna go to TransLink too,
Yeah.
so that's something we can bring up later.
The only thing I have about the
But
kids
hang on a
getting.
sec, hang on a sec, Tricia, I just want to get stuff, so I think we need the whereas, it's the same, it doesn't matter. We need to demonstrate that they're not providing the service that we need, it's inadequate, and they have two choices. Okay, now the other point though is, I'll come to you in a sec, Tricia, is it's 40, to go from B to A is 40 people, the Cormorant Marine, the Apodaca takes 40 people. So basically it's, you know, so if
That's
we
why I
use-
put it in the
yeah,
motion.
so if we use the water taxi,
That's good.
and it's still not enough, then we're gonna have to go to
To A
to
as
A.
well.
And if it's still not enough, it's another issue entirely.
That's right. Good.
Trish? you
Well, I was
have-
gonna say, because roughly right now, there's between 130 to 140 students. So if you start adding up that,
Yeah.
plus the fact if you actually load that ferry with 100 cars,
Yeah.
and that's what they get.
Yeah.
You know, you're at 230,
Sure,
give or take whatever amount of adults.
Yeah.
You're actually still actually under than what they're saying on a lot of it. That's why that
Yeah.
whole counting is really inaccurate.
Melanie?
It's on later, but hopefully maybe we could merge it.
Okay,
It's to do with our meeting with the Ministry of Transportation at UBCM, and we did raise this issue with her. So that has been raised at the ministry level, so they know we're requesting this additional service. So BC Ferries comes to them asking for more money or whatever, at least that message
It's
has
in
already
there.
been.
Okay.
And we did
thanks.
get turned down by the Ministry of Education when we asked for a meeting to discuss this issue, so we tried that route to see.
They shunted us over to
They shunted
transportation.
it to the Ministry of Transportation, however, they are aware that we are meeting capacity on this run,
Yeah.
and that we were requesting
Yeah.
additional service
Yeah.
to mitigate it. So hopefully that would give some room, hopefully, for BC Ferries to be able to negotiate that. And we've communicated that, or at least I communicated that to BC Ferries, is that's what we
Okay.
were trying to do.
Good, thanks, Melanie. So, Steph, let's hear what you got. Give it a try.
Whereas overloads in the 7:30 ferry are happening more often, but on unpredictable days of the week, but are
Just
nonetheless
throw in
unacceptable.
AM, 7:30 AM,
Yeah.
right? Okay, yeah.
Therefore, it be resolved that the Transportation Advisory Committee recommend to Council that BC Ferries be requested to provide a 40-person water taxi leaving Snug Cove 10 minutes before the 7:30 AM ferry, as was done in the 1990s on Monday to Friday, or that BC Ferries increase the capacity to a Class A license, which would also increase ridership by 40 passengers.
No, that's good.
That's good, it's nice and clear.
Okay.
Done.
Yeah.
I move that.
Okay, clear, and it's seconded? All right, any further discussion? Those in favor?
I,
Excellent, thank you very much. Okay, so Susanna,
yes.
is there anything else, because you might need to leave, is there anything else on BC Ferries issues you want to raise?
I can give you a brief report on the FACC meeting.
Yeah.
There hasn't been an FAC meeting.
Right.
The last BIMTAC,
What is it, FACC?
Ferry Advisory Committee's Chairs Committee.
Ah,
Is that right? Did I report on this before? I don't think so.
I don't think so.
This is our first meeting since July, isn't it?
Yes.
But it's very brief. Most of you probably have seen the report I wrote in the undercurrent, so it's just to recap those things very briefly. The ferry system is busier than ever. They had a record number of vehicles this year. They think they'll have a record number of passengers on the whole system next year. Our route, Route 8, is not the one that's experiencing the worst problems. There are overloads on nearly every route. They are coming up with some good solutions for some of the other routes, so I think it's good to be observant. So, for example, the Gabriola ferry service and the Quadra ferry service, they're going to exchange one larger ship for two smaller ships, which will have more frequent service. And those ships are on order and will be expected in service in 2021. Which makes you wonder if they could do the same thing for Bowen. I actually really doubt it, because I think they're already over the maximum number of dockings that they can handle at Horseshoe Bay. But I think this gives us even more ammunition to push for foot passenger ferry services in addition to the Queen of Capilano. It's very interesting that the new vessels they have on order, so 4 smaller vessels and I think 1 larger one, will all be hybrid LNG electric vessels with the potential to go over to full electric capacity. And the hold up there is the lack of BC Hydro provision actually at the docks, so there's an infrastructure issue there. Now for Bowen, the one issue we need to pay attention to, I think, is that our restored sailings on Saturday and Sunday mornings, I have to remind everybody that this is a 2-year pilot, and these are being provided above the contract with the provincial government. And they will be reviewing the ridership on those and the ridership on Saturday and Sunday mornings generally. So they're very careful to say there are no guarantees that we'll keep those. In another month or two, I'll have the FAC look quite carefully at the figures. We'll get another tranche of figures from BC Ferries of ridership in November, and I think that would be a really great moment to take a look at those and see how confident we are that those restored sailings can be built into the contract. Just to give you a heads up of something that I will take to the FAC first, the Ferry Advisory Committee first, but I do hope that we can emulate Gabriola and propose a scheme whereby we have low-cost experience cards for people who can't afford to the amount to load the existing experience card. So one ride experience card. So we'll be bringing that forward. One other thing is that when we get to the next performance term, which is a 4-year, BC Ferries operates in 4-year chunks of time. I think we haven't had any fare increases for a little while. We should expect a fare increase at that point of inflation. There are some crewing issues which might be interesting. Transport Canada sets very high levels of crewing for Canada's ferry system. And apparently there's something happening in Quebec where they're going to be lowering the crewing levels by about 30%, and that might save them a lot of money if they can have smaller crews. That might make more flexibility. One other thing that came up at the meeting, this was in August, just before the BC Ferries AGM, is the use of flaggers in unmanned terminals. And I was very interested to hear from the other 12 Ferry Advisory Committee chairs that it's very inconsistent between the different terminals about whether BC Ferries pays for flaggers or not, and how flaggers are generally recruited and how they operate. So I'm going to get some more information on that. It made me think that we're doing quite well because the Muni and BC Ferries, if I understand correctly, splits the cost of our flaggers 50-50, and that seems to be a better arrangement than many of the other ferry routes.
Okay.
So that was about it, I think, in terms of report from the Ferry Advisory Committee's
Got a couple of
Chairs
questions.
Committee. So it's a one-day meeting. We met with the Minister of Transportation and Infrastructure. We met with the BC Ferries Commissioner, who was the Deputy Commissioner, Sheldon Stoyland, who actually lives on Bowen Island, although I only ever meet him at those events. And then we met with the full BC Ferries management, including Mark Collins.
Probably keeps a low profile.
Okay, I've got a couple of questions. Melanie, and then you.
I'm actually just drawing attention to Trish was saying about needing a local contact.
Yes, I can speak to that. We've raised that many times with BC Ferries. Both our Bowen FAC has raised it, and all the Ferry Advisory Committee chairs raise it. And you can imagine if we feel sore about not being able to contact somebody in Horseshoe Bay, imagine what they feel like in Haida Gwaii when they have to phone a number in Victoria.
Oh my God, yeah.
So BC Ferries' line on this is that it's just not economically feasible to have people manning the phones in every terminal. So that's why they route everything through Victoria. So we have tried many times to persuade them that they need to be better on that. So they do have a team of people who are supposed to be answering phones and doing tweets and stuff like that in Victoria. It's not just one person. But every time we meet with them, we emphasize that their communications are still not where they need to be, and they always concede that. So I'll keep on bashing away at that. I don't expect that we'll get somebody in Horseshoe Bay, but if they're going to do it centrally, they need to have enough skilled staff on the phones and on Twitter or Facebook or whichever modes of communication we're talking about. It's not a very satisfactory answer, but I can tell you we bring it up all the time.
Or even if the person in Victoria has some sort of direct line to Horseshoe Bay so they can actually find out local information. Okay.
If I can just mention, this is the same problem that people trying to reach the Coast Guard have, and the same problem that people trying to reach the conservation office to report poaching and catching crabs. And all those kinds of things go through these major call center kind of Victoria now, and they're relying more and more on automation and apps and things like that. So it is hard to find somebody to answer a phone.
They have no idea.
No, you like?
It's just a follow-up, Susanna, with what we were dealing with this overload this morning. There was some chatter on Facebook, and I was wondering, there was a request for an update. I was wondering if you might have time to post something as chair of the FAC.
Is that on Bowen and everything else?
Yeah.
Yeah, I will. That's a great suggestion, Melanie.
Great.
They were wanting to know what the outcome of our discussion was tonight.
Yeah.
And what
I'll happily do that when I get off the phone.
And the other request was, they just wanted to know if BC Ferries had responded with an official explanation of what happened this morning.
So a quick explanation from Susanna would handle.
Yeah, I'll do that.
Fantastic, thanks so much. Anything else? Okay, there's a couple more BC Ferries issues. There is the late, this was now 8.1 on our agenda. We're moving things all over the place, but let's just do this. The BC Ferry protocol for late buses. Now that was, what happened, about a week and a half ago, I guess it was?
Well, the first bus.
Yeah, first bus. I think that's sort of been dealt with. Is that, are we okay on that?
I think so. I mean, I think the whoever controls the school buses reacted really well. I was very impressed.
Yeah. Okay. Are there any other BC Ferries issues for Susanna? Yep, Scott?
Just, we have on here protocol for turn off. It might be worth a discussion of, is it worth the ferry waiting for anybody, even a valuable group like,
Right.
well, everyone's valuable, but a school group, and there was some email discussion about whether the buses or the ferry should wait for anyone, or
No.
if we should kind of direct the feedback to BC Ferries is, here's the schedule, what we really want from you is to run it on time, which
Yeah.
means
Yeah.
we don't want it stopping and waiting for people and getting behind schedule and that way.
Yeah, you made,
Yeah.
in the discussion on that, you made that point, I thought.
Yeah, I actually really agree with that. I thought that was very well put.
Yeah.
Yeah, I
You
think we
can't
should,
start making exceptions.
No.
But then what are you going to make an exception for somebody who's late for their chemotherapy appointment? You know, I mean,
Yeah.
it has to run on time. That's the point of the schedule. I think we're a little casual, like the thing that happened this morning. You saw from Darren's email that apparently some people arrived at 7:28 a.m. Well, we all know we should be there at 7:25, right, for the 7:30 ferry.
yeah,
I think that was another point in the email, is just I'm not sure that everybody does know that, because there are so many exceptions made in 728, but is there a helpful mode of communication to say you need to be there by 7:25, and if you're not, it's on you if the gate's closed? Because I don't think people know that, and they get frustrated at BC Ferries rather than themselves for not getting there on time.
I am pretty sure it's written down somewhere, but I can get them to BC Ferries to write it again. I think to actually leave at 7:30, they have to initiate the departure process, which takes at least 3 minutes. I think the closing of the gates and the unhooking of the hawsers and everything like that, that doesn't happen in 1 minute. So I think you're supposed to be there at 7:25. But I'll see if I can get that in writing, and then we could post it.
Post it through,
To the parents as well. I
Yeah.
mean,
Yeah.
not
Well,
everybody
Just
gets their
universally,
emails.
Oh,
you know,
right.
you need to be there
Yeah.
5 minutes before
Yeah.
Santa.
Okay.
The only problem we get is when BC Ferries start to chronically run late, and then we all get into the habit
get
of
it.
showing.
Yes.
Yeah.
And that's where it starts to go,
Yeah.
fall down, I think, so.
Yeah.
it's been better.
Trish?
I would be really interested if you could check out their tracking record, because you can run the ferry by which crew is on every day in the morning. They have it now set up that you leave at 10:02. You can track, and I've done it for 2 months. I have every day they leave that ferry, and some crews leave at 7 o'clock, and that's why it gets in at 20 after 7. If you've noticed this week, it's arriving at 10 after 7, unloaded and loaded by 20:25 after.
Yeah.
And that's why everybody starts freaking out.
Yes.
Yeah.
It's loaded, and it's to do with what crew is. So there is
I
one,
think you're right, Trish, because when I went after the school bus incident 10 days ago, I was on that ferry later that morning, and I asked to go and speak to the master, and they actually took me up to the bridge and I had a little chat with him, and he claims that he will wait for anybody. This is perhaps not what we want to hear, but he will, if he sees somebody rushing, he'll open the gates again. And actually, to be honest, even before I went to speak to him on that sailing, which was like the 10:50 a.m., he led on people, then cars, then people, then a car, then some people, and he had
but they're doing something in Horseshoe Bay first thing in the morning where they do their regular checks before there's a pull-up. Some crews will go completely by the book, and they do not pull out of Horseshoe Bay until they've done their checklist.
Well, it's really
Some, I
interesting,
think, do
and
it on their way across.
I'm sure it depends on the master. It's the master who calls it,
Totally.
and so I think, what would you like me to do? Just to ask for them to be?
I would like to know why some crews are actually pulling out at 7 o'clock and they're calling it on-time performance compared to the ones that actually pull out at like within 2 minutes of when they're supposed to pull out and still call it on-time performance. Because
Oh, no, I can
even at
answer that,
7 is
Trish.
not
It's called
on time.
on-time performance if it's within,
10 minutes.
10 minutes is
It's
not
10
on
minutes.
time
No,
performance.
it's not.
which doesn't mean, it's stupid. They use the
Yeah.
same criterion for
Yeah,
routes that are 10 hours long and 20 minutes long.
yeah. So I'd be just curious to know what kind of comment they come back to
Yeah.
you.
I have one more ferry thing before, if in case Susanna goes, and that's just to let Susanna know, remember we made that motion about the
Yeah, great.
foot passenger seat service request to TransLink?
Yes.
Well, council, I wrote up all of our comments in this little report that I presented yesterday at council, and council passed it unanimously with it. Basically changed the motion to read that council requests staff to begin discussions with TransLink about. So
Wow,
that was,
great.
I just wanted to pass that along to everybody and to you before you left.
Thank you and well done.
I brought
Yeah.
copies of what I put in the agenda if
Yeah,
anybody wants.
and I attended that meeting, and Sue Ellen did a great job presenting that. Okay, I want to
Yes,
move
thank
on.
you.
I want to move on from BC Ferries because we need some stuff from Emma, and it's starting to get late.
Yes, so I'm going to go now if you don't mind.
Yes, thank you very much. Thanks so much.
Thank you, bye-bye.
Thank you, Trish. Okay, Emma, so let's see, what on earth item are we on? We've got,
Mr. Chairman.
I'd like the 7.1, the
Can we
staff
get our
update,
staff?
Emma. We've got the bus schedule clarification, which is Elia and Emma. So those two items, there we go, yeah, then now we're up, that'll get us, so, go.
I think I have a good 10 minutes
Okay.
for I have to run off.
Yeah.
The bus schedule, I don't really have anything to report.
Okay,
No, I mean, I thought we kind of left that as we were gonna wait and see what's going on with the GPS and the
yeah,
lab.
yeah, I agree, it makes it
Yeah,
less critical.
yeah.
Yeah.
Okay,
I have one thing to report about the bus schedule,
Oh.
just that if you you ask the bus driver, you flip down the visor, they have little marks all over there, so it's not exactly the same. The schedule that the drivers refer to is not exactly the same.
Okay.
So there's a
Sometimes.
third schedule,
Yeah.
awesome.
So, this was from back in June, I don't know, maybe they
Okay.
fixed it, but sometimes if there's a glitch, you can ask the driver to see the
Okay.
schedule.
So
Emma,
I have
go.
a quick list of updates,
Yeah.
and if there's anything else you guys have questions on, just ask me. I hope I
Yeah.
covered everything. Well, the very first one is not so much an update as it is more of a request. Talking with TransLink, over the past 3 years, they've really been helpful and improved I feel their customer service and response to local governments. And it's come to my attention that the new CEO really values feedback from the local governments in terms of how their staff is performing. And just as a token of our appreciation, I thought it'd be a nice gesture to write a thank you letter coming from the Transportation Advisory Committee.
Okay.
And just some of the things they've done, like they've extended the evening service, they've helped us out with the school, getting the kids to West Van Secondary, the pilot project, getting Compass Card on the island, all the funding, which has been really difficult to navigate, they've been
Yeah.
extremely helpful.
And connectivity to 257 as well.
Yeah,
Yes.
20 minutes.
Coordinating the schedules and
Yeah.
improving the services there. So I'm just wondering if anyone wants to volunteer for a letter writing exercise.
I'm normally I would do something like that, but I'm really busy.
Yeah.
Most of us are.
I'm looking down there, table in my
Sure. Do you want to run it together? With Emma, I mean.
With Emma. If Emma, you slap the points down?
Sure.
I've got a list of 5 things, but you can.
Yeah, I can send an email. So this would be a joint effort between Scott and.
Yes.
Yay!
I don't know if we need to do it together.
Smart Cities Challenge application.
I'm happy to do it, James, if
Well, why don't I
probably
just
won't
take
take two of us.
You take the first crack. How about
Okay.
that?
Okay, thanks, Emma.
So that was just one main point.
And then
I
it
wanted
goes
to
to
get out of the way.
Dave to sign, right, as chair?
I guess that's fair. I watched him perform at the TransLink meeting for new people who are running for municipal office. He's quite an impressive speaker. Like he spoke very fast for an hour, super detailed, and it was really interesting and really well done, and quite compelling, yeah.
Second one, also really quick, a new FCM grant has come out, so the Federation of Canadian Municipalities. It's for funding pilot projects for transportation. It's kind of wide open. It's for anything that encourages active transportation or reduces greenhouse gas emissions along those lines. So anything innovative,
Does
sustainable.
it include capital expenditures or is it operating?
I think capital.
Another 200 feet of bike lane.
Yeah.
But not infrastructure, I don't think. I'm not sure,
An
but,
electric bus.
or an electric bus. So the grant is up to 350,000 at 50% cost sharing, so it's
Okay.
not 100% granting. But I just wanted to bring this up, so everyone has it in the back of their mind for
Okay.
the 2019 transportation.
For the 2019,
plan.
yeah, good, because we've got that whole plan to look at.
So it's like a case of going through the plan and seeing if there's
Yeah.
something that,
It might
Yeah.
work into, yeah, it's just a new fund that popped up, so,
Okay,
yeah.
super.
Then electric vehicle charging stations, council just approved $8,000 to purchase 2 level 2 stations. So this is just the station cost, not installation. We have yet to determine the exact site. We did do a little bit of consultation over the summer, and the results are that no private business owners want to volunteer space for a station. So we're looking at public land, and the most popular site would be on Cardina.
Yeah,
The parking there is fairly limited, so as staff, we're still investigating if that is the best site, but it would either be in Cardina or the library lot in that
yeah,
vicinity.
that area.
Yeah, so once we hear back from Hydra as well, we'll get a better idea of cost estimates for the station. So that'll be a 2019 project
Okay.
to install. And then the last update is on the multi-use path. Okay, 2 parts. The first part is we have funding for the branding. That's where we have to kind of meld our Bowen Island brand with the Spirit Trail brand, and also come up with something unique and innovative to make it eye-catching and inviting for use and wayfinding and safety, and bringing that to the students at Fix, hopefully soon, trying to establish a good date for that. And Rethink has also offered their services pro bono.
Oh, wow,
Excellent.
okay.
Yeah. Yeah, so
That's
hopefully
pretty
we'll get
fantastic.
some design guidelines by the end of the year, and we can get it actually done in the new year.
Oh, that route, that's great. That would be
Yeah,
quite
yeah, I think it should look good.
Yeah.
Just, I found the other day I walked up to Glen Eagles Golf Course to a meeting last Friday, and ran into the Spirits
Yeah.
Trail signage up there and the little things going here and there. So it didn't look that complicated, but it was quite clear that that's part of the trails and the routing. So it's cool. It's right there.
Then, item 2 is probably the route itself.
The route itself, so that's phase 1, that's the
Yeah.
first phase the municipality is taking on. That ran into the big stumbling block with the survey plan coming back and showing that our road is running through private property.
What are they doing about that?
So I
Don't worry, every municipality runs through it. Sure.
Yeah, there's a lot of, it's not uncommon. So working with legal counsel, I think our best approach is to informally contact the property owner. We're gonna need a very clear survey plan showing the amount of area and an estimated offer. Right now, based on assessed values, the amount of area that we're looking at would, less than $5,000, which is not a lot, and I don't know how attractive that would be to the property owner. Does anyone know the property owner? No? Okay, all right. So I have
this
nothing
is
to.
the one up on the side, right?
Yeah.
Yeah,
On the left.
yeah.
And he's isn't he a landscaper or something?
Yes, and he was very much in favor of building out
On the other
over
side.
the
Other
creek
side.
Yes.
for multi-use paths. So I need to have that conversation, and I think we need a little bit more internal discussion on the staff level before we tackle that. But that's where that is at right now. And if the property owner is not agreeable to any sort of sale of the land, Legal counsel has said that we do not want a statutory right-of-way, so it's like an easement. They still own the land and will have an easement. Just because for a public highway, it really restricts our use of the land for highway uses. So really, we're looking at a sale of the land, and if the owners don't want to sell it, then the only other option is expropriation. And that has to be a council decision, so with
Yeah, I don't
everything's-
think we should really discuss this much further, should be closed if we're getting
Mhm.
any
No,
details.
yeah, so it's, everything's up in the air right now.
Yeah. Okay, so recognizing that any detail here should be closed.
Does this have any issue with the timeline for the funding? Are we
That's a
in
good
jeopardy of losing the TransLink funding because of this challenge?
We have 4 years to spend the funding.
All right.
We got granted in 2017,
Right.
so we have a couple more years.
Okay, so there's no concern time-wise about this delay, or
There is some concern.
there is some concern?
There is some concern. So just a procedural thing,
Yeah.
if someone wants to buy a piece of land, there's a process that goes through, there's a legal process,
Right.
has to get dedicated as right of way, so that's time. So it's somewhat time sensitive, it's doable, but there's time, but there's some urgency to get it started.
Yeah. Okay, Rob?
Okay, just two quick questions. One is just an update on the bike barn. I was hoping to email you and I totally forgot. So if you have one on that, that'd be great. And just to dovetail a bit on Melanie's point, just time frame. So we haven't met with these owners, or nobody has yet, but are we like really like, hey, we're gonna do this quick, or is it sort of like we just? I guess I'm just worried about delay of the cross island
No,
pathway.
staff understands the urgency.
Yeah, good.
The bike barn, I have nothing to report. The plan right now is to have our building inspector lead that project. He teaches a woodworking class,
Yeah.
and his students will be doing it pro bono. They need to finish the current project they're on, so
Because when we,
it depends on that.
okay, just so, yeah, just because when we asked last, they were gonna mill the wood over the summer and start construction in October. That was the timeline then. So I don't know if we're still on that timeline.
When when I checked over the summer, that was the last I was told. I'll check again.
Could you give us an update? Thanks.
Anna, do you have anything else?
That was my list, yep.
Do you have any other questions for Anna? Getting close to her time to leave.
You've got something about a bus shelter.
Well, I was just,
Yeah, that's okay, but that's other items, but.
Oh, yes, sorry.
So let's just look at our agenda, we've done that, I'm working my way through. UBCM, there's a UBCM update from Melanie, then we've
I can add one thing
got
there.
an array of things from, that's Sue Ellen. Okay,
I just wanted to, while I was here, mention that we also talked to BC Hydro when we were at UBCM. We met with some of their staff, and we talked about a few things, including electric ferries, and we talked about on-demand net metering, which, about the net metering changes, which we can talk about later, but I think we brought up the idea of, are you working with BC Ferries to get hydro down there to the terminal? So they are aware of our interest to the BC
Yeah.
Hydro folks.
And I think that is something that probably might come up across your plate, is that they were saying that they wanted to have a staff meeting with BIM and BC Ferries and Hydro. So-
Yeah. So I'll look in my notes. I don't know who would have those notes.
That was,
Raj?
I think they'd contacted Kathy prior to the meeting, and that was
Oh, yeah.
where it landed.
Right.
We didn't get much traction at that meeting about discussion of hydro capacity in regards to
Right.
ferries, but, so it might be something that. you
If I
can-
have anything in my notes, I'll send it to you. How about that?
Melanie, do you have anything else from UBCM?
Just quickly, so we met with the minister, we discussed pedestrian-only
Yeah.
service. We also talked about electric ferries. She was open to that, gave, We also, this was great news, this also may be of interest to Emma. We presented the transportation plan. She was really impressed by it. She was curious whether we'd be okay with her using it as an example for other islands. So I have a contact as well for the ministry, and they would be interested in a digital copy of it.
This is the page she really liked. She said, this page.
Yep.
Just so you know.
So maybe having a staff liaison there would be good just so that there's that contact.
And of course, we'd be very happy to share it, whatever way. Okay, thanks very much. We're now down to a whole bunch of new items. Thank you, Emma.
Thank you, Emma.
So 7.4, we've got 7.4, 5, 6, 7, and 8. And they're all yours, Sue Ellen.
Oh, okay, I'll just look through them here.
Bylaw, first of all.
Yeah. Now, for the first time, a Bowen Island municipality has a subdivision and servicing bylaw. So what this means is, instead of working out each big development like Cowan Point or Kate's Hill or something like that with the developer and deciding on the size of the culverts and the width of the roads, it's laid out. So the road widths and the drainage and the...
It came to this committee for comment.
Yeah, it came to you for comment, so I
Yeah.
just wanted to let you know that that had passed. So now we have it.
That's great.
I was in an emergency planning meeting today, emergency program executive committee, something. Just to let you know that there is a grant application being prepared for evacuation route planning. So just to think about the routes and the, possibilities, I wanted to let you know that it's just an application that's being prepared, but council approved her applying. The Cobb Bus Shelter, this is we had a delegation yesterday. Dave Pollard from Bowen in Transition came with Bowen in Transition in association with Bowen Island Arts Council is preparing an idea for a bus shelter beside the Cove Commons there where the buses wait for the ferries. And right now, he was talking about this idea of a Cobb bus shelter, and I asked him how Cobb is this like the mud walls, right? But I asked him how big it would be, and he's sort of off the top of his head, but it was 3 meters by 8 meters, so that's like 240 square feet. It's big. It's bigger than one of the buses, and so I just wanted people to flag this. I sent a note to the librarian and a few of the library folks today because it didn't come up in the library board meeting a few days before. I think it's early stages, but it was a council delegation, so I just want to get everybody aware that project is in the works. I did have a look at the TransLink criteria for grants because that's one of the things they're going for, and they have transparency. They like transparent bus stops, partly because of crime, partly because of lighting, and partly because of visibility, so nobody walks out from behind the bus shelter into the path of a vehicle and also can catch the vehicle. So anyway, I don't know what's going on with that, but I just wanted to let people know that idea was out there. It was a very creative idea. It involved getting the community together with the mud girls coming from somewhere else and everybody building it together, and it had fabulous creative energy behind it. I personally have some concerns about how it would work from a transportation point of view and also from the entryway to the public buildings, kind of visibility kind of side of things. But it's out there, and I just want to let you know.
I was at the meeting too, and I thought that when he said the size, 8 meters, I mean, I've stood in a lot of bus shelters in the city, and 8 meters is a long way. I mean, it's 25 feet,
Yeah, I think it's like 10 feet by 26 feet,
just
something like that. I wondered if you meant 3 feet by 8 feet.
Yeah.
No, Cobb
But Cobb
requires
is big.
real maps.
And then I
like
looked at
it's-
his examples in his, so it's.
Just as a form, it might not be the most appropriate use of that technology.
Anyway, so we'll just see how it develops, but I wanted to flag that this is not your typical bus stop that's being talked about.
I wanted to add a couple of things. I watched the presentation, everybody was excited, and it was really, a pretty neat, creative initiative and all that.
Are there pictures in the presentation?
Yeah.
There were a couple, yeah. Well, not of what this would be like, but some of those
Typical
hours.
cost.
Yeah.
More like this than like that.
But the trouble is, to build a, I'm a little bit worried about what you just said. It is right at the entrance, in front of the entrance to the building, and it will block a lot of it off.
Yeah.
But the other thing is, we're going to get a new terminal down there in another few years. And one of the things we're hoping is that there'll be a bus pickup right there. We'll use all that extra land so we can have the bus right there. People could walk off the ferry, get on the bus, and get the bus out of there.
Yeah.
So we'd have a bus stop that weighs a gazillion pounds. It would no longer be used and can't be
It
picked up
can
or
be a
moved
part
anywhere.
of the emergency,
So anyway, I didn't want to be a wet blanket and.
Yeah, and me neither, who wants to be a wet blanket?
Yeah.
But I just wanted to bring up, also, remember pretty soon, the ferry lineup is gonna start back by the Cenotaph,
Yeah.
right? So then there will be room,
I thought they weren't gonna do that.
I don't think that's happening.
isn't it? Oh, I thought
I think
maybe,
they decided not to.
okay, because if they do, or when they build the new terminal this side, maybe there will be room for the buses to
Yeah.
be in front of the
Yeah.
terminal. So I just,
Anyway, well,
yeah,
it'll be
anyway,
down the
skip that.
What else you got, Sal?
I have,
road.
the one that we did already, this one, about the TransLink, oh yeah. And lot 3, this is the lot, here's Miller, Government Road,
Yeah.
RCMP. There's a concept plan now that council hasn't approved it, it was just a committee of the whole yesterday, but it includes walkways. I wanted to let you transportation folks know, including possibly down here onto Government Road, sorry, I can't see. It includes affordable housing or attached housing, health center, fire hall, and changing the parking around and potentially adding more parking and tons of parking around the fire hall. So there's a whole restructuring here going on. Most of it was to make sure that everything would fit and that the sewer lines and water lines and the transportation, so I just wanted to flag with you guys that this is in the works.
Yeah.
And that the thinking about the flow both of pedestrians and of vehicles.
Yeah. If you
That's
want to
it.
see the diagrams, it's in the agenda for that.
Yeah.
That
Of the
comes
committee of the whole yesterday afternoon, that's it. I'm done.
in. Okay, I think we're getting close to, look at that, 8:45. Do we have any other items? Hearing none, do I have a motion? I have no objection to being adjourned. Thank you very much. Thanks for being. Okay, thanks, folks.
Okay.
I'm very pleased that we had such a quick response to